Good morning. Happy Thursday. Thanks so much for waking up with BT. I'm Caryn Ceolin. Tim Paikin with you. Pardon me, Steve Paikin.
I wish I was as cool as Tim.
I apologize, Steve.
No. I wish I were as cool as Tim. I forgot my white suit at home this morning. I thought I'd go with the old-fashioned blue. Anyway.
Steve Paikin,
Yes,
I
good
do
morning.
apologize. It was a late night for you last night, though.
You know what? I took my daughter to the Toronto Symphony Orchestra concert last night. They were playing the Beatles. TSO plays the Beatles. It was a great show.
Cool.
But I forgot. You probably can't do a lot of that when you have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
You're very brave.
Brave and awake, which is amazing.
Did you need the alarm clock this morning?
No, I didn't. I still didn't.
Okay.
Still didn't. Got up before the alarm.
Well, while everyone was sleeping, Prime Minister Mark Carney was giving a briefing to reporters again alongside the Australian PM, in which he said Canada cannot rule out military intervention in the conflict in the Middle East. I mean, Canada's stance has now shifted throughout the week. Like, first it was unequivocal support for the American airstrikes. Then it was support for the campaign, but with regret. But Canada would not get involved militarily, and the strikes might be, might convene international law. Don't know. And now it's Canada can't rule out any involvement. What do you make of it?
I'm going to push back a little bit on the first thing you said there, which I'm not sure the Prime Minister said unequivocal support for the military adventure that's happening right now in Iran. I think his initial statements were, we support the attempt to make sure that Iran does not acquire nuclear weapons. And I think much of the world can get around that idea. Once it moved into regime change, I think then the Prime Minister decided that he looked like he was a little too bullish behind this thing and he wanted to bring it back. So yes, at that point, then he said, we really wish diplomacy would be given a chance here. Prime ministers do want to keep their options open. Therefore, the notion that we are not closing the door to future participation as a general statement makes sense. But I agree with, I think, maybe the sentiment behind your question, which was this does look like there has been some kind of movement from one position to a very different position through the course of this thing, which would, ironically enough, mirror the Trump administration's talking points on this, because they seem to have been all over the map as well. So the whole thing is quite confusing at the moment, and it's very deadly. And who knows how much longer it's going to go on for. Certainly, President Trump talked initially about a few weeks. Now he's saying longer than that. All bets are off in war, as you know.
Yeah, a fair point about the term unequivocal, probably not the right word. But yeah, I mean, to your point, the U.S. administration has also shifted its objectives.
Yes.
But at the same time, Trump has said that he will, he's threatened tariffs. He's threatened to cease trade with countries that, don't align with his objectives. Could Canada face pressure from the U.S. in the future to get involved, at least where naval support is considered?
Karen, I think one of the things we've learned with Donald Trump having now been a year or more into his second term is that the word could gets a real workout. Could anything happen? Yes, anything can happen, particularly at a time where, he doesn't seem to care about whether or not he gets international support. He's very happy to go it alone with Israel. Would he like international support? I assume, like most presidents, he would prefer to have international support. Would he like Canada being more fulsome in its support of what's going on? I assume he would. Is it a deal breaker for him? Clearly not. He's going to do what he wants. It's a unilateral world, as the Prime Minister made clear in Davos. And
what is the role, though, of Gulf nations, too, where Carney is seeking investment? Because they might say, hey, that comes with a security premium. You have to, help us protect our shipments.
What a mess, right? What a mess. This war started as a thing between three countries, and now, it's gone as far as Turkey, right? There are missiles being lobbed at Turkey right now. So, yes, the Gulf states are in some difficulty. It goes beyond that. It's interesting. I talked to former Cabinet Minister Tony Clement yesterday I do this other show called the Paikin Podcast, and we talked about the fact that he believes World War III has started. He thinks it started with Russia, Ukraine, and it's continuing now in the Middle East. And before long, many, many more countries are going to be at this. And considering how many more countries are now at this compared to when this started just a few days ago, I'm not sure he's wrong.
I want to ask you about, I suppose the Liberals, because this is something you mentioned earlier, they're shaping their foreign policy really for an audience of one. They they don't want to engage in anything that might, set Trump off in terms of Kuzma, where the review is concerned. U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc, he is headed to Washington later this week to meet with U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer as they prepare for that mandatory review. But those talks are not happening in isolation, right? Like, they're happening against the backdrop, of course, of what's happening in the Middle East. The U.S. administration is trying to manage the fallout because the strikes are deeply unpopular among the U.S. Population. The primaries are underway. It's a midterm election year. Donald Trump's not getting any more popular.
Absolute nadir of his popularity right now.
Does that give Dominic LeBlanc any leverage when he heads into these talks? Because at the same time, he can say, hey, look, our prime minister was just meeting with the prime minister in India. He's in another Commonwealth nation right now. Like, does that give him any leverage?
I mean, the way I look at it, I wouldn't. If it does, it might be that much. I talked to David Frum the other day. This was for a Toronto Star column that I got coming out on Saturday.
Very good.
Oh, yeah, it's up online already.
Yeah.
And David had a really interesting point, I thought, which is to say, presidents have a certain number of minutes the minute they get into office, and the longer they are in office, those minutes disappear and you can't get them back. And his view was, I didn't watch the hockey game last night, but here's a good expression from hockey. His view was, Canada, rag the puck as long as you can, right? Like, play keep away. Delay. And he thinks that Trump gets weaker the longer he's in office, and as a result, we just need to be patient and delay, and we'll get a better deal that way.
I need to wrap, but we teased it really quickly. Pierre Poilievre is on his first trip abroad as opposition leader.
I think you got to feel a certain amount of sympathy for him. He's overseas, he's giving big speeches, he's actually saying some really interesting things and not getting much coverage because look what else is going on in the world. Got to feel a little bit bad for him.
Just as recently as just a few weeks ago, he was criticizing the Prime Minister for doing the exact same thing.
And yet the two of them seem to be kind of on the same page on a bunch of stuff right now, so that's interesting as well.
Okay, Steve, I'll leave it there. Thank you so much. Appreciate your analysis as always.